and welcome to another episode of American Dreamtime, the Robert Doc Barham Show. I am Doc, and I am here again with my co-host, Mr. Ben Cooke. Ben, say hello.
Hello, Doc.
And where are you today, Ben?
I'm in my world headquarters, per usual, in lovely, rainy Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, California. Today we have another character, a longtime friend who currently also resides in Los Angeles, John Wing. Are you with us, John?
Hello, I am, indeed.
You can hear it right there. That's John Wing, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very funny comedian, multi-talented artist, writer, poet, musician. What else, John?
I tie my shoes very well. I am known for that.
Yes.
What else? I play a little guitar. What else can I do? I make great popcorn.
You make great popcorn? Are you also a husband?
Oh, right. Husband, father, brother.
There you go.
Uncle. Although, no, I'm not really an uncle, am I? Oh, I guess I am. Yeah, my wife's brother had a kid, so yeah, I guess I am an uncle. So,
Father? Have you made that?
Yes, father of two grown children.
Uh-huh. Do you have pets?
I have two dogs that are with me at this moment.
They are.
Oh.
What are your dogs' names?
Gracie, who has stolen my glasses case, I see. Gracie is a border terrier dachshund mix. She looks like a lion had sex with a corgi. And Harpo is a West Highland White Terrier, Jack Russell Terrier mix. So an all-white Jack Russell neurotic type of terrier.
I see. And you're a homeowner.
I am a homeowner.
Man of many, many talents. John, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it. Do you recall, John, can you recall where it was that you and I first worked together, in which comedy club it was?
Was it a Funny Bone?
It may have been a Funny Bone. I remember hearing about
St.
you,
Louis,
your
maybe?
reputation.
Something like that?
It may have been St. Louis, the flagship room, as they called it. But I remember your reputation, your good reputation preceded you. I was looking forward to working with you, and I was not disappointed when I got to see you that week. I was always the kind of comedian who sat in the back of the room and watched the other performers perform and enjoyed it. I
had gotten to the point then where I only watched the other performer ahead of me to make sure I didn't have any jokes that they were also doing. And luckily, we didn't have any at that time.
Do we now?
I don't think so. But,
okay.
You headlined at one point, too. You know, at a certain...
Yeah.
You come in on a Wednesday night and you watch the guy going on before you, and he would have no jokes at all that screwed up anything you did. And then you would do your show, and then the next night you would be watching the person, and every joke he did, it would seem like, would be something that dovetailed onto what you did.
Right.
And you would go, well, what the hell? You didn't have any jokes that I did. And you would mention it after the show, and the guy would say, oh, I watched you last night, and it reminded me of a bunch of bits I used to do.
Oh. Well,
great.
Ben is actually been talking about going on stage to perform some stand-up comedy. What advice would you share with Ben?
Have you not done it, Ben?
Well, the only reason I talk about it at all is because my co-host here has basically been holding a gun to my head for the last... So, I was close to doing it, and then, this whole pandemic thing happened, and I was actually kind of writing down some bits. It's just it's sort of a bucket list thing that I've never done off.
If it's a bucket list, then you should do it.
Yeah,
once.
yeah.
Because to get really good at it, you only have to do it 4,000 or 5,000 times in a row.
Here's kind of my thing, at least from my I tend to be funny in the moment, but like conjuring a joke from memory, I'm terrible at it. You know, like I couldn't tell you a joke right now to save my life, but I might say something slightly witty to get a kick. You guys might get a kick out of. That's about it.
You write then you tailor your set, your act around a story. You tell a story about yourself, which and everybody tells stories about themselves, so it makes it easier. It makes it easier to remember. Because it's not a joke type joke.
Right.
I'm glad John's helping out by getting really technical.
Well, and honestly, that's kind
Jokey
of
joke. Joke.
The few times I did write it down, it came from stuff I remembered. You know, basically a couple conversations with my wife. So, like, my wife is Jewish, and we kept talking about.
That's 20 minutes right there.
And there's, and you know, as a non-Jew, I'm just like trying to figure out things like kosher and you know, I'm like, what is kosher anyway? And I finally came to the conclusion that kosher, as you know, sort of a thing that exists, is basically just the longest food recall in human history.
Well,
you know,
it's funny.
Ezekiel had a bad clam one time. All right, no more shellfish forever, everybody. We're done with this now.
Y'all,
you know, Isaiah didn't cook the bacon right. We're done. Okay, everybody, no more pig forever.
There you go.
Well,
theories abound.
It's funny, when you said my wife is Jewish, I knew instantly that you were a non-Jew. Because no Jewish man whose wife is Jewish would ever say, my wife is Jewish.
Well, that'd be funny, though.
Yeah.
Now, Ben, you just sort of told a joke, and you have a joke. I think we can't say that joke, or at least the version that I know that I like so much. But it has to do with the 3 dogs that you own. That I like that joke so much that I asked you if I could do it because you weren't doing it on stage, and you said that was okay. What are the names? Can you say the names of your 3 dogs?
I think that's one you and I kind of came up together.
Yeah.
Because I do have one with pet names, and I have seen it since then, so I don't know how fresh it is. But it's basically about how you don't often see. This is the PG version suitable for the air. I know there's a different one that Doc's talking about, but this is about kind of just giving pets regular names.
Okay,
you know, like you know, you meet a beautiful golden retriever in the park or whatever. Oh, what a beautiful dog! What's his name? Mark.
Okay. That's a good. Mark's good. Technically, Mark is a very funny Mark, because that's a name nobody's expecting. I was expecting Joe or Bob or something, because
there's a few.
See, dogs with both those names. Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Carl.
Carl's even funnier.
This is, you know, like
Eddie.
This is Eddie. A beautiful, you know, like a beautiful border collie Lassie dog coming up. You know, like, oh, so, you know, you expect some type of majestic name or a cutesy name even. No, it's Dan.
Shirley. It's Shirley.
Yes.
Women are tougher because they've got sort of that Y, you know, sounding name. But there's a few women names that I think work in this joke too, and it would be either Carol or Linda.
Yeah, there's a novel by one of my favorite writers, my favorite mystery writers, and two of the dogs. A guy has 2 dogs, and one is named Carol. So I've seen that.
So you can't do
so
that.
where do you go with it, though? The thing about that joke is what comes next. Because you can get a laugh with Mark or Carl, but what's after it? You know, when you're writing a bit, you're writing a joke, you got to look at where does it go? Where will it? Once I inject this absurdity, where does where does logic take me from the absurdity? That's so, you know, where is the path? What path is this joke going to walk?
Yeah, it probably, requires a bunch more setup. And this is why.
Well, no.
You guys are the pros here. I'm just.
Ben, I have to, as long as we're going to have three of us talk at once, I want to admit that the joke I really like, as much as I like that one, is the one where you have three dogs that are named What the, Who the, and How the.
Oh. It could have been what they just respond to, right? It's like, stop that, get out of there, and God damn it. Ooh, I don't know if I can say that.
But by the way, I want to interject. Neither one of you are currently on another radio program at the moment, are you?
You mean together or separately? No, we're not.
Okay, good. John, you have your own program as well, right?
Well, I have a podcast that the pandemic stopped me from working, so I decided to do a podcast. And, all the comics have podcasts about comedy, so I didn't want to do that. And I'm addicted to collecting things among my many addictions. And I collect sheet music, so I decided to do a podcast about music. And it's called The Bad Piano Player, and it's available on all the platforms. We just started season 6, and our first 4 episodes were 1940s Oscar losers, in which I played 7 great songs that were nominated for Oscars in the 1940s, but they all lost. And a couple of them lost to Zippity Freaking Doodah. Wow. Then I did one called 2 Movies, 6 Songs, 2 Bing Crosby movies from the mid-1930s, just when he was starting to get really going as a movie star. And I do 3 songs from one movie and 3 songs from the next, and I perform the songs, and we talk about the movies and the career of Bing Crosby. And then I did an episode called Al Bowley, who was like the Bing Crosby of England in the 30s, and he mostly sang with a couple of orchestras, and I had a book that had his recording history, which was amazing. So I did that one, and I just did Oscar Hammerstein, who wrote the lyrics to Sound of Music, among thousands of other things he wrote.
Heard of it?
So those are the 4 we did, and I'm currently working on a piece called Most Obscure Songs 2, which is my second episode of Most Obscure Songs. So you pick an artist you like, and you find a song that even a fan might not know. We're doing a Dave Edmunds, a David Bowie, a Jethro Tull, who else? There was a band in the 80s called Timbuk 3. I'm doing one of their obscure songs. Yeah. Paul McCartney, I managed to find him. Well, it's like with Dave Edmunds, you have an incredible number of obscure songs to choose from. With Paul McCartney, it's a very small number. So it's like that. And it's essentially, the show is like a piano bar, and I talk between songs, right? That's essentially what it is. You do play the piano and you do sing. I play the piano and I sing, and it sounds like a guy telling you a little story, and then we play a song. Yeah. And you also have you have commercials as well. Well, I write the commercials. I wanted to do it like old time Bob and Ray radio, and since I don't get a lot of downloads, nobody's ever offered to sponsor me, so I just write my own commercials, like Pep Cola all the sugar, twice the caffeine, all the taste. Pep Cola, come for the taste, stay for the rush.
Wow.
So I just write a lot of odd sort of Zeppelzauer potato peelers, potato peeling technology, once available only to the military, and now in your kitchen. So stuff like that. I've invented a lot of various. Last year we had the Flamo company, the Flamo home cauterizer, the Flamo home sock darner, and there was something I can't remember. But I love the home cauterizer. But you just screw around. The first year I went online and tried to find old magazine ads from the 20s to see to get an idea of what the products were like. And I used a couple of those, and I used a couple of real things. Like there's a place in Ontario. I grew up in Canada, and there's a place in a town called Ingersoll, Ontario, and it's the Ingersoll Cheese Factory Museum. And I just find that to be such a funny group of words that I love using them as my sponsor, the Ingersoll Cheese Factory Museum. If you're interested in the history of cheese and cheese factories, come on down.
Not just cheese, but cheese factories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now in smell-o-vision, you know what I mean? Come into our smelling room. And it's just so much fun to talk about. So we have, and each week I have a union. I make up a union. The International Union of Night School Teachers Assistants, stuff like that. So that's it. So it's a little 35 to 40 minutes in an old style radio piano bar. That's essentially what I'm hoping to go for.
How long have you been doing the show now? How many episodes?
Since what are we at now? 165 episodes. And I actually have enough folders on my piano bench right now, I think, to finish season 6. How I will do season 7, I have no idea. But I may finish season 6. So.
Now, you said something earlier, though, about songs by, say, David Bowie, Dave Edmunds, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Your focus is it not, because it says on the web, the focus is like the 20s, 30s, and 40s, popular music.
Yes, but we occasionally do modern songwriters. This year we're doing, aside from the obscure episode, we're doing Gordon Lightfoot is one of our modern songwriters. And who else did I decide I was going to do? There is, I'm probably going to do Randy Newman this year. And I'm doing a 60s. I'm looking for a 60s song. I have 5 songs that I've got that are ready, but I can't find the right 6th one to fill out the episode. So we'll see. But
I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned you collect sheet music.
I do.
How does one collect sheet music? Is there like swap meets for sheet music collectors?
Well, swap meets for sheet music, but you go to swap meets and antique malls, and you go on eBay. Oh, there's a lot of us on eBay. I'm in 2 or 3 Facebook groups, and there's a guy who lives in Pasadena, a German guy, great guy. I put him on my thank yous at the end of each episode now because he sent me so much music. Just copies. He'll send me a PDF of, if I'm looking for a song. And he's a monster collector. And I'm a little itty bitty collector when it comes to some of these people. I've got about 150 songs by a guy named Harry Warren, who wrote I Only Have Eyes for You, You'll Never Know If You Don't Know Now, That's Amore, and he wrote a lot of songs. But he was strictly a composer, never wrote any lyrics. But there's a guy in this group who's got, I think, upwards of 1,000 Harry Warren songs. I don't know. I mean, I don't have the money, but some of them are. Some of it, you know, in the last 2 years, eBay has gotten the ones you want now, because I've gotten to the place where the ones I want are now really expensive, right? So I don't buy as much. But yesterday, a woman from Winnipeg phoned me and said she'd found a bunch of old music in a desk in a woman who died that she knew, and she was asked to clean out her house, and she found a pile of sheet music in this desk. So she called me on FaceTime and showed me all the music, and I told her the ones I wanted, and she's shipping it to me. And in April, I'm going to Phoenix, and in Mesa, there's a music store, a really good one, really big one. And upstairs, they have 3 drawers that are just filled with old sheet music, and big, thick drawers, and they're $2 a piece. So I told my friend I'm going to visit a friend of mine. I said, "Hey, man, if I come, we have to go to this store for a couple of hours so I can sit on the floor and go through these, you know." Yeah.
So there's like a whole market for this, and they
oh yeah,
and is it sort of like, you know, collecting baseball cards or first edition books or something? Well,
yeah, to a degree, but I'm an odd duck in this group because I collect them to play them, right? I want to learn the song. I want to play it. Like in the last 2 months, I've found 2 songs by Hoagy Carmichael. Do either of you know who Hoagy Carmichael was?
I do. I even remember his guest appearance as a cartoon on Fred Flintstone.
Yes, exactly.
Let's pretend for a second that maybe not all of us do. I'm not going to name names.
Do you remember, Doc? Do you remember? It was Hoagy something. It wasn't Carmichael. It was, you know, like they had Rock Hudstone and Stoney Curtis. They always had some kind of stone name. But anyway, yes, Hoagy Carmichael was a piano player. He was an actor. He was in a bunch of movies in the late 40s into the early 50s, but he always played a piano player.
He sang the Yabba Dabba Doo song.
Right, and he was a great pianist and a great jazz composer. And it's rare because I've got a plane load of Hoagy Carmichael songs, a whole bunch of them. And I got a beautiful copy of a song he wrote with Johnny Mercer, probably the greatest lyricist of that era, called Way Back in 1939 A.D. That's the name of the song. And I mentioned it to Norman because I'd never even heard of the song. And I know a lot about Hoagy Carmichael, and I mentioned it to Norman, and Norman was like, "Yeah, I got that one." Yeah. So I'm nobody in this group. And I also found one recently in, where was I? Oh, I was in, where the hell was I? Oh, right, Guelph, Ontario. I went to a place in Guelph, Ontario, and I found one of his songs called Moonburn. And when you called, Doc, I was learning Moonburn.
You were learning the song then?
I was. I'm putting it in an episode. So
I love this. This feels like television to me. This feels like, I mean, obviously you've got the podcast, but there's something about, there's, you know, like it's, my wife and I just, you know, we're much older than we are. We love to sit and watch Antiques Roadshow at the end of the night.
Oh,
you know, it's just endlessly fascinating.
Yes, it is. You know what I love at night when everyone's in bed here. We have 3 guests staying at the house at the moment. When everyone's in bed, I put on YouTube and headphones, and I do needlepoint, so that calms me down in the evenings. And I watch old What's My Line episodes, which I find wonderful, just wonderful, witty, cultured television from the 50s and 60s. And you love to play the, is anyone still alive on tonight's episode? No! So...
Well, John, I am an independent researcher at the Library of Congress, so I'm willing to give you a call while I'm down there at the main reading room next time and see if I can find anything that you can't seem to find music-wise. How's that sound?
Oh.
Deal?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah. Do they allow you to copy it and take it out?
Yeah, you can get copies of it.
Wow.
Sheet music, I think I can check in on the sheet music, but from what I understand, that you can get copies of just about anything at the Library of Congress. There's a small fee for it, and I'd be happy to get some copies.
Well, that's great. There's a music archive from the University of Maine, which is online, and since it's a lot of songs are 1930 and back. I can download some of those without any problem. And I'm doing an episode on a guy named Benny Davis, who was a lyricist who wrote the lyric to Babyface. You know that song, right? You've got the cutest little baby face.
Yeah,
that one?
Sure.
So I was doing an episode of baby songs. Songs with the word baby in the title, but I know, and my favorite song of the episode was a Benny Davis lyric, and I decided in the end to do a whole Benny Davis episode and put a new baby song in the baby episode. You can go so far down a rabbit hole with music online and elsewhere. It's incredible. I can tell you how many times a song was recorded, right? How many covers? How long is it still being recorded? Many of them are. It's incredible. Music is such an incredible gift.
Yeah. And so you sing and you play the piano, and you also said earlier you do play the guitar, right?
Yes. I have arthritis in my hands. And especially my right hand, my dominant hand. And so the guitar has gotten more difficult. I don't play the guitar very often anymore, but I still can. I just have to be sparing about it. And but the piano is still okay for the time being.
Yeah.
Hello, I am Dorian Saris, and we are listening to American Dreamtime, the Robert Doc Barham Show. Tell your friends to listen too. Thanks.
Well, now I have a secret agenda here, which is to prove that professional stand-up comedians are usually men of multiple talents. They are artists in multiple mediums. So you are also a poet, right? You published poet?
I have published a few poetry books. 11, I believe, is the number. And I've also published a novel and a memoir, and I'm currently working on a novel.
I see. Another novel.
Yes, a novel about comedians, actually. So,
when do you think you're going to publish that?
I have no idea. I would hope to be finished a draft of it by the fall, maybe, and then a rewrite maybe by Christmas, maybe by early next year, and then I'll send it to whoever I still know in the publishing business who isn't dead, and see if anyone wants to publish it. We'll see.
We had a author on the other week, and we spent a fair amount of time just talking about the writer's process. Another aspect that Doc and I are familiar with personally. And how are you finding writing a novel. I mean, it's a lot of words.
Well, I wrote one before. I wrote a novel called A Car to Die For, about a lawyer in a small town in Michigan in the mid-'70s who catches a burglary case that has a lot of implications with the power structure of the town. That's essentially the story. And my goal when I wrote that novel was 3 pages a day. So at the end of 100 days, you have 300 pages.
Right.
There you go. I once did. Are you familiar with National Novel Writing Month?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I was challenged to do that by a writer colleague of mine a few years ago, and boy, was that intense. It's basically 50,000 words in the month of November.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it's just under 1,700 words a day.
Right. Jack London his goal was 1,000 words a day, and Stephen King in his prime was 10,000.
10,000 words a day?
A day. I don't know how you do that. I honestly don't know how you do that.
He probably still does that. I remember, didn't he retire 20 years ago, and then he still puts out a novel a year?
Yeah, he retired. Well, the thing is, you never stop. You write something that might be a novel and it turns into a short story or a novella.
Yeah.
So you put that in a drawer, and then you do a novel, and then you do another novel, and then you don't really have any ideas, and you pull out all the short stories and the novellas, and you publish them, right? In a one of his books, or a lot of his books are short pieces. Shawshank Redemption is a short piece.
Is it from a short story, is it? Or a novella?
Yeah, it's a novella. And there's another one, Apt Pupil, which was a great movie. That's a short one piece he did. There's a whole bunch.
The Body, which
The Body,
Rob Reiner did as Stand By Me.
Stand By Me, that's right, The Body, yep. Oh, yeah, he's a prolific fella, that Stephen King.
I've heard that it's unbelievable. I can't. There was a great. You can find this somewhere on YouTube. I think there's a great stage. On stage, you have Stephen King and you have George R.R. Martin, and George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, obviously, and George they're talking, just having a conversation, everyone's watching, and George asks Steve, do you ever sit down and write a paragraph and just look at it and shake your head and say, maybe I shouldn't be doing this at all? And Steve goes, no.
And you're expecting him to say, every stinking day.
No. And I think that interaction right there describes both of their characters in relation to writing, right? Because everyone's been waiting for George to finish this series. Will it ever happen? Probably not. Meanwhile, Stephen King is, here's a surprise 1,000-page novel that I wrote.
Yeah. Well,
it's
everyone's
wild.
process is different. That's the other thing. Everyone has a different process. So. But
so, John, that's a good place. I would like to ask you. Can you tell me? Have you reflected on your own creative process? One of the things that we've been doing this season with the artists that we've been speaking with is asking them about their creative process to give some insight to the listeners who are creative as well and might like to learn from folks who have been artists for decades.
Well. My process has more to do with thinking about something than actually writing it. I recently did a record, a comedy album, recorded it a couple of weeks ago. And
where was this?
In Guelph, Ontario.
Okay.
And I had to, it was one of those things where, I had my whole year booked. My 2025 was all booked. And then this friend of mine is trying to get, as a comedian, is trying to get into the producing or promoting thing. Said, would you do a show at a theater in Guelph that I promoted, and how much would it be? And we settled on a price, which it turned out I didn't get, but whatever. And I looked at my schedule, and I had one day that I could do this and have enough time to fly there and prepare, and then to get home, and then I had to go to Tahiti or something. So So this was in September. So, okay. So I'll do it. I'll do you a favor, and I'll come and do this show. So then in December, late November, early December, a friend from a production company in Toronto, an old friend, calls me and says, hey, you want to do an album with us? You got any shows in Ontario we could record? And I go, well, I got one on this date at this place. And they say, well, great, we'll do that. And so now I've got to write new material, and a lot of it. And I've got 3 months, roughly, to write somewhere between 30 and 40 new minutes. So that's what I did. And I had a few shows, about 12, 13, 14 shows, but in January, February, to get it ready and hope that I could hit it out of the park on the night of. And the bits form in your mind, but the writing process for comedy is doing it on stage time and time again, and each time it's a little different until, if I had another 6 months or a year to prepare the material, it would have been perfect, but it wasn't perfect. Yeah. It was as good as I could get it. But each time you do it, you find something. You see new pathways, new ways in, new ways out. Like a guy, here's a process. I come down to breakfast one morning. I'm doing an afternoon show at this convention in Florida in January. And I come down to breakfast, and I see this guy who I know, and we're talking about our kids. My daughter got married, and he says, oh, one of my daughters is dating a guy. I know he's going to come ask me if he can marry her pretty soon. And I have this fantasy about it. And he starts telling me his fantasy about the guy coming and how he's going to go take the guy out to his barn. And before he asks him if he can marry the daughter, my friend's going to castrate a bull with a jackknife and then throw the bull testicles to his dog. And he's halfway through this fantasy story, and I'm thinking, I could do this on stage. And it's happened to me a couple of times. I know I could do this story on stage and kill with it. And so I go on stage that day, that morning, and I do the story. Having heard it once, having not really formulated an idea on how I'm going to tell it. And I do it, and it goes sort of semi-okay. And I think about it that night, and I realize the entry is wrong. I have to personalize how I get into it. So I talk about my daughter getting married and how her guy didn't ask me, which is fine because we live in a modern age. But I say 35 years ago when I got married, I had to ask my father-in-law, and he was a farmer, and I tell the story that way, and it kills the next day. Second day I did it, murdered. And it was perfect from then on. I did it a couple more times, and I didn't have to change anything about it.
Now, when you tell the story, John, do you go back later on and do you write down what you have spoken? Do you have recorded what you've spoken? Do you?
I've recorded it a couple of times, but I don't write it down. I know when it's a story, right? A joke, you might write down specific how you want to word it, how you want to deal with it. But a story, you're telling a story. It's got to be natural. It's got to be like it's just you and me hanging out on the golf course chatting on the tee type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I want it to be very natural. I'm just telling a story about my father-in-law, and I invented a name for the dog. Somebody said to me, "How did you come up with a name for the dog?" I said, when I went on stage, the name was there waiting for me. And I call the dog Ruffles. And so when he takes the testicles, the bull testicles, he goes, "Ruffles, come here, boy." Throws him the testicles. And that gets a big laugh. And then he turns to me, wiping the knife on his shirt, and he goes, "What was it you wanted to ask me, John?" Right? It's an intimidation story, right? So I can make it seem like it absolutely happened to me. That's the key to the story. You got to make it seem that they never for a second believe anything but this happened to you.
Wait, this interview isn't one of those stories, is it?
No. But it happened once with my brother, too. And it was the exact same thing. He told me a story about all the trouble he and his wife had with raccoons pooping in their yard.
Uh-huh.
And he was halfway through the story, and I thought, I can put this on stage and get big laughs with it. And I put it on stage that night. And although it wasn't dead perfect the first night I did it, it was perfect within 3 or 4 reps. Boom. And you never had to change it.
So what's the difference from when you are, it sounds like when you are working on stand-up comedy that you're working primarily mentally and then taking it on stage and speaking it. How is your process different when you are, say, writing a book of poetry, or you are writing a novel? What's the difference?
Okay. When I'm writing stand-up comedy, if I'm writing lots of new material, I will go to the computer and write it all out occasionally. Type it all out, print it and look at it, and then make edits with a pen, right? Because you also, when you write it all out, you can also hear it. I can hear how it sounds, and I'm trying to make changes in the sounds as well as the words I want to use. That with poetry, I used to write, all my first drafts were longhand on sheets of paper. I would write a draft or in a notebook, and then when I decided it was good enough, I would type it into the computer, and the computer would become the second or third draft because I would change it. When I wrote it in the computer, a different experience, I would change it. And now I don't write in longhand much anymore because of the arthritis in my right hand. But that was my process for poetry. You would start with a line, and poetry and comedy are very similar. I'm starting with a line or a turn of phrase or a juxtaposition of 2 images. I'm starting with one of those 3 things, and I'm trying to find a visual picture that I can make in the shortest number of words. That's what I'm doing. In poetry and comedy, they're very similar ideas.
So, John, can I interrupt you for just a second?
What? No, you cannot interrupt me. You're fired. You get a cab. Sorry. What? No.
What I would like to ask you specifically, when you're in the creative process, are you seeing in your mind's eye what it is that you are working on, what you're imagining, what you're creating?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of times you have an overview of how it's going to be, and and many times that changes as well as you're writing it. The signature bit in the album, that is the title of the album, is the combining of two stories I used to tell. One I really only told myself, but another one I told around. I told my friends and some other people. I was one of your dining out dinner stories, and I put three other stories in there to round it out, and I used real names, and I made it very, very, very personal, which is where comedy seems to be going, right? I mean, you see that. I think the stand-up comedy has gotten super personal, super close to the bone in the last decade, certainly. So that's how I did that. But it's a writing and performing process with stand-up. And one of my biggest problems has always been writing two different things at the same time. If I'm writing stand-up, that's usually all I'm writing. If I'm writing the podcast, that's all I'm writing. If I'm writing the novel, that's all I'm writing. So I find it hard to switch over when I'm deep in one. I find it hard to switch.
Now, are you also, do you hear what's being said, say, for example, as you're writing poetry or as you are having characters in your novel interact with one another? Do they have actual voice? Is there an internal dialogue component as well that you're aware of?
In other words, can I hear it when I write it?
Yeah. For example, when I write stand-up comedy or when I write poetry, and I'm asking because our processes aren't necessarily the same. They may have similarities, but they're probably very different. And I know that I want to hear what a word or phrase or sentence sounds like, and I need to hear it internally, but I will also speak it externally to make sure that what I hear and like internally and am about to choose, say I'm going to go with this, I speak it out loud to sort of close the gap and make sure that what's going on in my mind is actually accurate with what I speak out loud and hear. Oh, okay, that does sound like
absolutely. Absolutely. The writer Martin Amis.
Yeah.
In one of his last books,
Einstein's Monsters. Yeah.
Right. In one of his last books, he talked about how he would write a paragraph and then read it out loud to himself to make sure there weren't any, as he put it, clunky sections.
Yeah.
Clunky phrases. Because sometimes your internal hearing mechanism is a little off. Mm-hmm. And something might look good on the page and not sound good out loud. But I'll give you another example. When I first did the podcast, I always had a sound recordist who was my daughter in the beginning. Now it's just the editor. I record it now, but she edits it. But in the beginning, she recorded it, and I would write little bits for us to do. And from the first time I wrote something for her to do with me, she could say it exactly as I heard it, because we have the exact same timing and rhythm.
Huh. That's really interesting.
And then when she moved out, when the pandemic ended, or after about a year, she was with us for the beginning of the pandemic. When she moved out, I continued to write bits for the sound recorders, and my wife would do them. My wife was a comedian, but her rhythm and the way she makes things sound completely different from mine, from how I hear it. So, and I respect that she makes a choice with everything she's doing. If I ask her to read something, she makes a real choice and goes for it. But ultimately, I I missed my daughter because she could do it just like I heard it.
Huh. So we've talked about the visual aspect briefly, the auditory aspect briefly. How do you have also a felt sense, like a kinesthetic or bodily felt sense of whether something feels right to you?
It's not as good, but yes, the comedian has to have a sense of when you get to a joke, or I'm saying this badly. There are jokes I wrote 10 years ago that are not the person I am today. And while I can still make them work, they don't work like they did when I was that person. And there is a contrived nature to them because the person performing the joke today is not. I'm not that guy. So you start to feel it, and that's when you know you have to change. You have to give the act an overhaul. And you have to write the jokes that are who you are now. And it's depending on who the comedian is. It's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's one of those. If you want to wait 10 years, you're and I'm talking about a full overhaul. Your act is constantly being tinkered with. Right? You're constantly taking out little ideas, putting in little new ideas and changing bits. And there's a cool thing that happens in your act. You have a joke in your act, and it always goes in the same place in the show. And for whatever reason, one night, you don't do it. And you never do it again.
You never do that bit again, or you never do it in that placement?
You never do that joke again. You for some reason, some subconscious reason, some night, it's always been in this particular spot. Some night you don't do it. And then you never do it again. And a couple of years later, someone comes up to you and says, remember that joke you used to do with the thing? And you realize, oh, yeah, I stopped doing it. Why did I stop doing that joke? And what happened was your subconscious mind realized the joke before it and the joke after it belonged together. So it took it out. And those jokes fused into a better, more cohesive act. So your brain, your subconscious mind is making choices for you and putting the act in a way that works. Or here's another one. Is it okay that I'm doing this?
Yeah, we've just got a couple of minutes here before we're closing our episode today.
Okay, here's a quick one. I wrote a joke about ships. Although I could do it other places, but I wrote a joke about working on ships. And the joke was, I'll do it very quickly. I didn't need to get off the ship today because I went around the world at breakfast. I went to breakfast and I had French toast, a Spanish omelet with Canadian bacon, German sausage, Colombian coffee, Florida orange juice, and then I went to the spa and got a Brazilian. That's the joke. And I wrote
no Belgian waffle.
Oh, I didn't think about the Belgian waffle. Very good, thank you. But I spent a week on the ship putting the list together, right? Because I knew it was a joke I had to open with. So I was putting the list together, and I was going through the bits. I would go for a walk on the deck every day, and I would run the joke and run the bit, run the beats of the joke. And going to the show, the first time I got a chance to do it, I decided on the way to the show that it just wasn't funny enough, and I didn't have enough confidence in it, because you got to have a lot of confidence in the joke. And I stopped by the entertainment director's office, because I was way early for the show, as I always am. I was chatting with someone in that office, and I realized there were 5 people in the office, and my brain said, tell the joke. So I told the joke, and they all laughed out loud. And I went, oh, it is good enough. And it killed. and it continued to kill. So who knows? Confidence in the joke, very important.
But John,
We're helping.
I want to say thank you for being here today. And I also would like to ask you if you would come back again and be our guest on American Dreamtime.
Well, it's an imposition, but maybe once. Okay, I'll say yes.
All right. That is our show for today. I want to thank my co-host in Los Angeles, Ben Cooke. Ben, thanks for being here and being my co-host. And again, I would like to thank my friend John Wing for being here. My name is Robert Doc Barham, and this has been another episode of American Dreamtime. We'll see you again soon.